Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Thought Life. So, for my first video, or one of my first videos, I want to talk to you about a thing that we hear pretty often. It's a phrase in our culture that a lot of people use, and it's "that's my truth" or "that's your truth." So, what people generally mean by that and where it comes from, that's what I want to talk about today with you. So there's that's a pretty common thing when you're arguing with someone, or when you hear someone talking today, they say, especially if you say something that they disagree with or that disagrees with what they're saying, they'll say, well, that's your truth, or that's not my truth. Okay? And what they mean by that is there is a reality for them and a separate reality for you, or there may be a separate reality for you that doesn't affect them. And so where this comes from is a concept called postmodernism. Okay? Postmodernism is it's a term, and it's from the late 20th century. And basically, it's this kind of relativism that says there is no such thing as objective reality. There is no such thing as human progress, or as a reality outside of ourselves. Everything is a social construct, or a construct of your thinking, and nothing objectively exists. Everything is all your perception of it. And that's a really simplified version of postmodernism, which again it's Western philosophy. It came in the late 20th century. Okay? And postmodernism is taught today in philosophy classes, in schools, as a valid way of thinking, as a valid understanding of the world, as a valid worldview. So postmodernists will take concepts and say, basically, that's your reality, that's your perception of the way things are, but that's not necessarily my perception of the way things are. And your perception of the way things are and my perception of the way things are can be different and equally true or valid depending on our perceptions. Now, there's a sense in which that can be true sometimes. So I don't want to be completely unfair. There is a sense in which that's true. So, for example, how you feel about something may be subjective. So I may look at one thing and find it beautiful. You may find it ugly. I may look at one thing and think that it makes me happy, or it makes me feel good inside. You may look at that same thing and say, okay, that makes me miserable, or that makes me feel bad inside. Okay? There is a sense in which we perceive the world differently. Okay? That is a subjective perception that we have of something that objectively exists. Not only that, but our feelings on those things objectively exist. Okay? So I don't want to be completely unfair and say there's no such thing as subjective truth, I guess, but it's very different from what they're saying. So they're saying there is no objective reality. So let's look at that for a second. On its face, postmodernism immediately falls. It immediately falls on face value. The reason for that is when you make a truth claim, like there is no such thing as truth, you are in fact making a truth claim. You are saying the truth is there is no such thing as truth. So immediately it's self-contradictory. Now you might say something like, the only truth is there is no such thing as truth. Okay, but even that is pushing the bounds of contradiction, because if there's one truth, then likely there are others. Now, again, you may say, oh, that's pushing it. But again, to say there is, the only truth is that there is no other truth. I mean, you're immediately starting with a truth claim. You're immediately making a truth claim, and then anything else you say after that is completely untrue. I mean, again, to me that doesn't make sense, and immediately it fails. But again, so let's go back to subjective thoughts and realities about objective reality. So in order for you to have a subjective thought, there has to be an objective reality. So if I look at a sunset and I say that's beautiful, and you look at a sunset and say I hate the color orange, okay, we're both looking at an objective reality and then talking about how we feel about it. So not only are we looking at an objective reality that exists, that we're both perceiving, but each of our feelings are an objective reality for us. So that shows the existence of objective reality. We could not communicate, we could not discuss things if there were no such thing as objective reality. In order for us to know anything, there must be something for us to know. Okay? And to me, that seems really simple. But again, in a lot of modern philosophy, that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is there's literally no objective reality. There's just our perception of reality. And that is what is real. That is what exists. But again, by making that claim, you are stating an objective reality. So you are saying there is no objective reality. Objective reality, number one. And there is only your perception of reality. So that implies that something exists because you're saying there is only, so you're being exclusive, and then your perception, so that acknowledges that a perception exists. Do you see the fallacy here? So postmodern thought, though it's being taught in colleges, is basically falls flat on its face immediately. So how that translates into our culture is with that sort of self-contradictory door that's been opened in philosophy classes and in colleges and in schools, people can take that and use it and say, well, I don't like what you're saying, so therefore it is not true for me. It may be true for you, but it's not true for me. And this is clever because what that does is if you make a valid point about something that may be wrong or off about what someone is saying, okay? So someone makes a claim, and you make a claim against that claim or contradicting that claim, and there's no good argument that can be developed against the counterclaim that you're making. All right, and I'm gonna give you a real life example in a minute, but just try and track with me here. Someone makes a claim, you make a counterclaim that contradicts the original claim. If the person who made the original claim doesn't like what you're saying but has no counter argument, they can literally say, well, that's your truth, that's not my truth. Okay? And from their point of view, from that philosophy, it doesn't matter how logical or reasonable you're being, because logic and reason don't exist to them. They don't have to appeal to it. They don't have to use it to argue back with you. Okay? So they can just say, that's your truth, that's not my truth. In other words, without saying it, they're saying, my truth doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to follow logic or reason because there is no such thing as objective reality. I can believe whatever I want. Okay? So let's take something ridiculous so we don't get too politically charged here. Let's take the claim that a human being alone, unassisted, believes that they can fly. All right? Something real basic that we all know is not logical or possible physically. Okay? Person says, I can fly unassisted with no machinery, no nothing, just me, my body. I can jump off, leap off of a 30-story building and just fly or float to the ground or glide unassisted. Okay? And I say to them, no, I don't believe you can do that you don't have wings. The Earth's gravitational pull you to the ground. You don't have the physical ability to fly on your own. And they say, well, that's your truth. That's not my truth. Okay? It's a postmodern view stating that basically what you believe is reality for you, what I believe is reality for me. Okay? And I don't need to appeal to logic or reason, the fact that I don't have wings, the fact that there's gravity, the fact that I have a weight and a density that's going to pull me down to the ground. I don't have to prove all that or show logic or reason for my stance. I'm just going to tell you that's your truth, not my truth. And I'm going to continue to believe that I can fly. Okay? And you can throw a rock off the ground. You could throw, throw a rock off the 30-story building. You could throw, a mannequin off. It doesn't matter, because that's your truth. What you're perceiving is your truth. My truth is that I can fly. Okay? It's a ridiculous example. I'm not saying anyone is saying that. I'm just saying I'm giving an example to show, person makes a claim, I can fly. Person makes a counterclaim, no, you can't. And here's logical reasons why. You don't have wings, Earth's gravitational pull, you don't have the ability to defy gravity in and of yourself, you can't fly on your own. And a person says they don't have to answer each of those claims. They can just say, that's your truth, that's not my truth, and walk away. Okay? You hear this a lot. Now to get politically charged, you hear this a lot in transgender ideology. You hear, where someone is born a male or a female, and they say, it doesn't matter what I was born. Sex is different than gender, and I feel like a female, even though I was born a male. I feel like a male, even though I was born a female. And you say, well, but biologically, according to all science and reason, you are in fact a male or female. And they say, well, that's your truth and that's not my truth. Okay? So I'm just telling you where you might hear that sort of discussion, and where it comes from is postmodernism and the idea that there is no objective reality. There's only subjective reality. The only reality is what you perceive it to be. So how do we understand this? Why do we not believe this as believers? Well, one, there was the self-contradicting nature of it. By making a truth claim that there is no reality, you are in fact making a truth claim and showing that there is objective reality. And so there's the self-contradicting nature of postmodernism. But biblically speaking, the whole Bible is based on the fact that not only is there reality apart from what we perceive, there is reality apart from what we think of it. There was God, and he created the heavens and the earth. That's reality. And he created it with rules and logic, and that's how we're able to observe things and have science and do experiments, because God put rules in the world. And so there is logic, there's science, there's matter, there's God, who exists apart from our perception. In other words, exists whether or not we know it, whether or not we believe it. He exists, the world exists, that he created. And then you even, the whole Bible is full of truth claims, God created the heavens and the earth. It starts out with a truth claim. And it doesn't matter what you believe about it. That's the claim, and that's the reality. There is one God. The Bible teaches over and over again, God is one. There is one God. That is a truth claim, a claim of objective reality. And so every claim made by God, every claim made by a prophet, every claim made by a disciple, every claim written in every book of the Bible is a truth claim that would fly in the face of postmodernism that says there is no such thing as objective truth. Each one of those claims is a truth claim. So just by reading the Bible and having it make claims at you, there are that is a refutation from the Bible of postmodernism. there's a specific parable in Matthew 7, and I'm going to summarize it. Jesus tells a parable, and he tells a parable of two men. One man builds his house on a rock, and one man builds his house on sand. Okay, so the one has a foundation of rock, one has a foundation of sand. The storms of life, which can represent just general life hazards, or it can represent, the wrath of God, comes down on each of the houses. The one built on the rock stands when the storm is over. The one built on the sand collapses and falls because its foundation is weak. Okay, and the point of the passage is build your house on the rock, which is Christ. Okay, when you trust in Christ, you're building your life, your house, your eternal destiny on Christ. And the man who built his house on the sand is building it on his good works, on faith in somebody else or something else other than God, on Christ, the one way to God. And so when the wrath of God or when the storms of life come along, he's got no foundation because he's not built on the rock, he's not built on Christ, and his house collapses. Okay, that's the point of the passage. However, there is a sort of a secondary point, and that is there is objective reality. The objective reality in this case is that Christ is the way to God, that Christ is the one you want to build your foundation on. But building your house on the sand represents building your house on something unstable. And the idea is there's an objective, hard truth reality that is the rock. And there is things that are not stable, not strong, shifting opinions. That's sand, okay? And so if we want to talk about truth versus truth doesn't exist, there is no perceived truth. Truth would be like the rock, where you build your house on something solid, right? We build our foundation and our life on something solid. We don't expect to sneeze and have a universe pop into existence. We don't expect to sit on a chair and have it turn into the mouth of a shark. I mean, I'm giving silly random examples, but my point is there is reality that we have faith in every day. You get in your car and you turn it on and you drive and you expect it to do what a car is supposed to do. You sit in a chair, you expect it to hold your weight. If it doesn't hold your weight and it breaks, it's because there are rules that dictate that your weight was more than the chair could handle, and that's why it broke. Or, maybe it was damaged before, but the rules of the universe dictate that because it was damaged before and now your weight is added to it, it causes it to break. There's logic and science, and there is an objective reality apart from how we perceive it. So building your house on a flimsy philosophy, building your life on a flimsy philosophy of your truth and my truth is like building your house on the sand, okay? It can't stand up to reality, to life. And you see this all the time because the same people who claim your truth and my truth will also claim to hold people responsible for actions they commit against them. So someone says something and say against them or against how they live or against what they believe, oh, you just hate me. Okay, is that an objective reality? Is that your truth or is that my truth? You see what I'm saying? They immediately go to objective reality. They can't help it because that's where we live. But then when it suits them, they'll appeal to your truth and my truth and postmodernism philosophy. So how can you take this knowledge in life? I would say just simply pointing it out. Just simply when someone says that's your truth, that's not my truth, just point out the fallacy of the thinking. And always kindly and respectfully. We don't have to get in arguments or shouting matches, but you can just say something like, I don't believe that there is a separate truth for me and you. And you can give examples, like I just did, flying or whatever. I mean, again, they're silly examples and they may not like them, but, kindly and respectfully, you can explain that I don't believe in a separate truth for me and you. I believe there's one objective reality, and here's why. And hopefully, you can speak with them, but just know in your own heart when you hear that And in your own mind, at the very least, just know that that is not true. That is not the case. And we can make a case for that logically, and we can make a case for that biblically. So I hope this was helpful. I hope the next time that you're engaging with someone and that, we're all being polite and respectful of each other, that you can discuss this with someone, and the next time you hear it, just know that, even if they don't agree with you, even if they don't believe you, that's an objective reality right there. They don't agree. And if they say that, I don't agree with you, I don't believe you, well, they're showing that they believe in objective reality too. They just don't want to claim it in that moment. And so just understand that, the Bible does have answers for us, and there are answers to these problems in our society. And I do believe that if we apply a little bit of thought in them, and we take some time to understand the perspectives and the points of view, that we can discuss these things, hopefully openly and respectfully and honestly, and we can solidify where we stand at the very least. And so I pray this is useful for you. Thank you for coming. I love you all, and God bless.